Story 1. In middle school, I made a comic book where the principal of the school was literally dropping nuclear bombs on kids if they were bad. I made a bunch of copies and was selling them around for 50 cents. I got called to the office and the principal said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to nuke you. But if you make one more comic book like this, you will be suspended." Story 2. In 6th grade, I decided to take books from the school library without checking them out. I always returned them, but I wanted to reread them over and over and did not want to deal with the return dates. I will admit it became a bit of an obsession, and I did begin to enjoy the thrill of not getting caught. I would return them, but I started to have a bit of a stack in my room that I kept behind my dresser. It was shorter and diagonal in the corner, so there was room behind it to keep the books. Well, one day I came home from school to find all the books on the kitchen table because my mom found them. My parents turned me in. We had to meet with the principal, and they told me they would not press charges or anything. They could have since it was $1,000 worth of school property, but since I turned myself in and there was no damage, they did not. Instead, I had 1 week of in-school suspension, and I was required to work in the library after school for the rest of the year, restocking books, cleaning the desks and computers, etc. I ended up loving it so much that I volunteered to do it for 7th and 8th grade before leaving for high school. Story 3. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes very young and was brittle for a few years. At recess when I was 10 or 11, I had to pee, like I really had to go, and the recess woman would not let me go inside to use the bathroom. So there I was, a little kid hopping up and down on the playground trying not to wet my pants, and I looked over and saw the cornfield next to it. I walked over quickly and relieved myself on the edge of the playground. Well, the woman grabbed me, walked me to the principal's office, which happened to be inside where I was not allowed to go in the first place, and told him what I did. He proceeded to berate her in front of me, saying that she knew I was diabetic, knew I had a medical issue, and asked what she was thinking by not letting me go to the bathroom. He basically told her to leave his office with her nonsense and told me that if I needed to go like that again, to just come inside, no need to ask. End of it, right? Nope. The woman came up to my mom in the car pickup line and proceeded to tell her how I just walked over to the cornfield and went to the bathroom in front of the whole class instead of asking her for permission to go inside. She blatantly lied to her, and my mom, of course, believed her. So I got disciplined at home for what I did. I was even screaming at her to call the school and talk to the principal. But no, she believed the problematic adult, not her own kid. Just another of her narcissistic parenting tools my brother and I were saddled with because it made her look bad. Story 4. My school had a strict hands-off policy, meaning you could not touch anyone else for any reason. I got in trouble in kindergarten for holding hands with my twin brother. Story 5. I got banned from sitting next to a friend at lunch because we emptied a plastic cup of Jell-O onto his hand, and he threw it across the lunchroom. It hit a table and exploded all over about 4 people. Story 6. My buddy and I were in 7th grade in 2011. I punched him in the balls at recess. I was an idiot, I know, and got sent to the office. I had after-school detention. The funniest part was he didn't do anything. He just got punched in the balls and got detention as well. We are still best friends 14 years later and joke about it to this day. We're both like, "Why did you get sent to detention? You were just a victim of me being an absolute idiot." Story 7. Had a gel pen tattoo parlor and took payment in cash and Pokemon cards. My little racket got shut down pretty quickly. The Texas public education system hates small businesses. Story 8. Algebra teacher yelled at me for asking for help. He told me, "Don't ask me. Ask your partner first." Then I turned around and asked my partner for help. He then yelled at me again, "Don't ask her. If you need help, ask me." Story 9. When I was in 4th grade, I found a Playboy magazine at a house that was being built in my neighborhood. I cut out the pictures and took them to school. During lunch, I was selling the pictures in the boys' bathroom. I got caught. The principal made me take the pictures with a note from the school home to my parents. They thought it was hilarious. In 6th grade, I was playing Fish Cheer from the Woodstock album, "Give Me an F, Give Me a U, Give Me a C, Give Me a K," on the playground during lunch. I got caught. That ultimately ended up with my being put in the most advanced class, and the next year going to an excellent private school where my mother was a teacher. Story 10. I told my social geography teacher she was a moron for teaching the Filipino government was to blame for the Rana Plaza collapse. I refused to apologize and was sent to detention. The teacher who was in detention sent me to lunch because he agreed with me. Story 11. Set off a stink bomb I bought at a party supply store in the boys' locker room, which caused the entire school building to be briefly evacuated. Caught a mouse and threw it into an active classroom. Made a miniature crossbow out of a ballpoint pen and rubber band that fired ink cartridges. Then proceeded to lodge cartridges into ceiling tiles, walls, and fellow students. Story 12. I was an all-around good kid, but I once saw a kid get a 5 on a test. I told other kids about it. I got back to the kid and she told the teacher. The teacher sent a note home. My parents said, I guess the kid shouldn't have gotten a 5 on the test. Story 13. I skipped school. That was the official reason I was suspended. The short backstory. It was 1982. I was in 6th grade. My 2 best friends decided to go on a shooting spree at our school. They thought I would be okay with this and came to my house to steal my stepdad's .357 Magnum. I played along while sneaking off to call the police. After a lot of difficulty with the police not believing me, they finally did, and my friends and I were detained and arrested. So, I was suspended from school because I stayed home and stopped 2 psychopaths from killing people. This was our actual defense in front of the school board to rescind the suspension, which they shortened but would only remove if I stayed out of trouble for the next few years. Story 14. I got mad at the county information technology guy, so I started volunteering to fix the issues at my school under the guidance of a teacher. Then I started going around to other schools fixing issues. Then someone at one of the schools thanked the Board of Education for the help finally. When the information technology guy found out, he went on strike, and that's when I got in trouble. Apparently, the guy had some plot armor and couldn't be fired. So before I started fixing things, he was showing up at work. After I started fixing things and he found out, he was still getting paid but stayed home in his underwear eating Cheetos. I almost didn't graduate because the information technology guy's cousin was the art teacher at my high school, and the art teacher accused me of plagiarizing some of my artwork. I got him back though. He called me a week after graduation, needing help setting up a photo negative scanner, and got him to admit it was a nonsense plagiarism thing. The principal almost punched him out over it. Story 15. I assaulted someone at lunch. There was a common occurrence of dumping salt packets in people's hair during middle school. I don't know why, it was just funny. I got caught and had lunch detention for 3 days. I ended up eating lunch with the band kids in their band room, and they had a party one day. I ended up getting some cake. 10 out of 10 would assault again. Story 16. I thought it was unfair that boys could go to the gym and girls had to do yoga. I wanted to do yoga, but it was still unfair to divide by gender. I argued for a good 20 minutes with the teacher until she let girls and boys decide. All the boys went to the gym and only one girl joined them. All the others wanted to do yoga. The teacher sent an angry mail to my mom, and she only replied, "She takes gender equality seriously." Story 17. I think it was 2nd or 3rd grade. I told a joke that my grandpa shared with me the weekend before. How to Catch an Elephant by Grandpa Ben. I actually stood in front of the class to tell this gripping tale. Well, first you need to go to the jungle where there are elephants. When you get there, you cut down a large clearing. Then you dig a hole where those trees were. You fill the hole with those trees and burn them down to ash. Then you line the outside of the hole with peas and wait quietly. When the elephant comes to take a pea, you kick it in the ash hole. The class loved it. The old curmudgeon teacher did not, so I had to go to see Mr. Clinker. Story 18. I tried and failed to hit a child outside of school in retaliation for throwing a rock at me that missed my eye by less than 2 centimeters, literally striking below my left eyebrow but just above my eye. The bus driver showed up, corralled us in the front seat, and sent us to the principal's office. The principal gave us both a week's detention, even though I acted outside of school and my only wrongdoing was defending myself from assault. I completed my detention and got released a day early. He never showed up. Story 19. Some friends and I, when we were freshmen, took these little tubes of lubricant and would put them on the rails in the stairway and then watch people put their hands in them and freak out. Some really immature middle school stuff. Anyways, we got busted, but my friends took the heat and never gave me up. The administration gave us the name Lotion Boys for the rest of the year. Also, being late half the time and having to beg the attendance lady to let me stay at the school. I moved halfway through middle school and had to attend out of district. Story 20. I found some old letters and paperwork from about 15 to 17 years ago from my elementary school. Apparently, I got in trouble in kindergarten for Europe 4 to 5 years old for being hyperactive after being given 4,000 milligrams of sugar and 500 milligrams of caffeine, pushing a chair across the room, using a crayon instead of a pencil, drawing on myself with a washable marker. Yes, this is from 2 letters. The school system wanted to put me on drugs for these heinous infractions. In turn, they would do the job they were already legally obligated to do. Story 21. I got kicked out of French class for laughing at Christmas songs. They were exceptionally funny to me. I also got sent to the principal's office once for sneezing once or twice, and the teacher thought I was just covering up my swearing. I inevitably sneezed in the office, and the principal could seemingly understand the mistake. I got sent back to class. When I walked in, I told her that was nonsense. And when she just glared at me, I told her she owed me a freebie, and she let me continue my work. Story 22. I have red hair and glasses and was short in middle school. I got bullied quite a bit and also had a bad family life at home with a drug addict brother. I started to fight back and I ended up getting put into behavioral disorders classes. The principal and staff did nothing to help me, even though they knew I wasn't the instigator. In my school, if you were in a fight, you both got in trouble. I was expected to let them attack me and not fight back. The only thing I regret is hitting a boy with a desk because he has permanent scars. Story 23. My roommate at boarding school kept splashing water in my face, even after I told him to stop multiple times. We were about ready to get physical when a hall monitor stepped into the room and intervened in the nick of time. Story 24. Wearing Dickies instead of the approved uniform pants, untucked shirts, smoking a cigarette in a neighborhood adjacent to the school, and telling a nun to shave her mustache. Story 25. Hacked the school internet and gave everyone unfiltered access. Bypassed the installation limit so everyone was able to install Halo and play games in class. Got in so much trouble I was forced to drop out. Story 26. I did a peace sign kind of behind my back during the class school photo. The photographer took the picture, then straight after he clicked, decided to single me out and said he had to retake the photo. The teacher was furious, and I had to sit down at recess. No one even bothered to explain to me why my crime was so heinous. A couple of teachers even walked past and commented on how bad what I did was. 25 years later, I still think and wonder what the big deal was. I was a 7-year-old doing the peace sign. I sometimes wonder if, because I did it around my back, they thought I was sticking up my middle finger. Either way, a quick discussion would have led to a lot less confusion for 7-year-old me. Any punishment in school needs to come with an explanation. Otherwise, nothing is really achieved. Story 27. I had to serve 2 weeks of in-school suspension for throwing crayons across the art room at my friends. I didn't even throw the last one. It just hit near me, and the teacher said to get out, laughing out loud. I was a freshman. Story 28. Incessant talking to classmates, to staff, whoever would lend an ear. Always tried to get out of trouble by more talking. Teachers called me Little Bill when I was a kid, as in Bill Clinton. Still a very social guy, but man, I would not shut up as a kid. Story 29. The kids started talking a bunch of nonsense and tried to harass me. I drove the tractor up to our school parking lot and opened up the manure spreader on his car. I refused to clean it up, and the kid had to dig his way in to get inside. That resulted in 4 days of out-of-school suspension. Then I beat him up after I got back for even looking at me sideways during a pep assembly, which got me 5 more days of out-of-school suspension. 10 years later, we are best friends and hang out weekly. Story 30. In preschool, I was waving goodbye to my dad when he dropped me off. I then got sad. I saw the gate wasn't secured, and it should be. I left preschool and walked about 2.5 miles home. When I got home, the doors were locked. I went in the back and got in through a window that was ajar. When I got in the house, the phone was ringing. I answered it, and it was the preschool. I hung up on them. In first grade, I went to the boys' bathroom and started urinating in the middle of the bathroom on a dare. I was hyperactive, to the point where the teacher had to cradle me like a baby to make me stop doing things. In fourth grade, I undressed a girl at the playground, only her jacket. In fifth grade, I skipped school and went over to my 14-year-old neighbor's house. He ended up doing things to me. I guess it was consensual because I let him do it to me. In sixth grade, a girl and I cut class while classes were in session. We ran all over campus, opening doors of other classrooms and yelling out "Ugu Ugu" at the top of our voices. We got caught and were sent to the principal's office. The school sent me home at 10 in the morning. Parents ended up sending me to a therapist, put me on Ritalin, and like magic, I became normal. First semester was D's and F's to therapist and Ritalin to A's and B's. In ninth grade, a friend and I tried to skip school. Somebody saw us. We chickened out. In 10th grade, we skipped school with a bunch of friends, went over to their house, which was 20 miles away, and got very drunk playing a quarters game. Other than that, my school years were relatively uneventful.